rest. My life made me feel hella stressed. I woke up with a hole inside of my chest. What the fuck is coming next? I can never just relax. Yeah, I feel vexed. Days are just to meditate, but I'm losing way too much faith. Who can relate? These fakers imitate, but me, I delegate. I'm gonna stay relevant. I'm living for the hell of it. Gotta make it through these painful days. I used to run from it, now I run right to it. Get right through it, don't do the crime. If you can't do the time, keep your head in line, or like my dislocate your spine. Hello everybody, welcome to Straight Outta BS podcast. Thank you guys for staying tuned for another episode. I want to thank everybody for the support, continued support. Please keep on sharing the videos, liking them. Let's get this into the algorithm. Keep on getting the words out there and get these places shut down. Thanks to all my Patreon members. I appreciate you a lot. I want to do a moment of silence to the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or anything like that. So I'm going to do a moment of silence on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And I just want to really emphasize just like sharing the videos and then liking the videos. And then if you're not subscribed to the channel, it really helps if you're subscribed to the channel. It also notifies you on new videos and all of that. It just really helps the channel. So if you can continue to share, I'd really appreciate it. And without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
Sure. So my name's Alyssa Hammond, and I guess I'm breaking code silence now. I haven't actually really come out and said that since this movement started. So I get kind of camera shy, so just bear with me here, along with the fact that this is one of the hardest things that I could be talking about, for any of us to be talking about. And so I was sent to Midwest Academy in Keokuk, Iowa, and I went there in 2013 and left in 2014. I have spotty memory of being there, but I have enough to know what happened, and I might dissociate while I'm talking about it. That's just part of something that happens when you have PTSD. So I'm going to do my best to kind of give an idea, give a straight streamline of what happened, and not get too deep into something unless I feel called to. So is that, I want to pause and ask you, is that kind of what you want me to do? You want me to just kind of share my experience there?
Well, yeah, I'm going to ask you questions, and then essentially it's just going to be about your experience and whatnot. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I'm ready. Yeah. I think I'm ready for you to ask questions.
Okay. Well, so you answered my first one. What led up to you being sent there? Can you go into that a little bit?
Sure. So I'll go into my childhood a little bit, just because I think it is relevant. So I was homeschooled up until 7th grade. So I was pretty sheltered. I lived in, I grew up youngest. I was born in the city of Rochester, which is known for not having very much money. There's a lot of crime there, here. And, it can be pretty tough living in the city, in the inner city in Rochester. But that was just really my younger years. And then when I was about, I don't know, maybe I want to say 10 or so, we moved to a suburb and like outside of the city, more countryside. And again, I was still homeschooled at this time. We went to like some small homeschooling gatherings. And my parents got divorced when we were in that house, and it was a really, really difficult divorce. That was when my dad decided to send me into public school after being homeschooled for so long. And so there was this, on top of the divorce that happened, there was this giant culture shock. So from being isolated pretty much, and not a ton of socialization. I had friends who I still talk to this day, but there was definitely a lot of isolation for me as a kid. And so just going into public school, it was just like, wow, this is really crazy. And so kind of right off the bat, I wanted to just fit in, and I fell into wanting to be liked, wanting to be accepted. And that is where a lot of my addiction and alcoholism started. It was this need to be accepted, to be just loved, and so I started doing what I needed to do in order to feel those things. And that included shoplifting, that included sneaking out, things that parents never want their children to do. And so, from my parents' perspective, which I never really will know what it was like for them, I was a troubled child. So that being said, I say that knowing the truth of what it was for me. But I will say now, as an almost 30-year-old woman, I don't have children yet, but I don't think I could ever personally send my children away, even if they were acting that way. But again, I don't know what it's like from his perspective, from my parents' perspective. So, yeah, I also want to mention I have a relationship with my parents to this day. I do talk to them. I talk to my mom about the school. I don't talk to my dad about it. He has said before, like, if he had known what happened there, he wouldn't have sent me, kind of deal. So that's kind of where that led up. I think there was one final straw for my dad. I got arrested in Walmart for shoplifting, and I tried to hide. I tried to hide going to court from him, and the mail was coming home, and that it didn't work. And that was just kind of like, he had picked out two places. He's like, there's a place in Florida that's like a military kind of place, and then there's this place in Iowa. It's called Midwest, and you can kind of choose. And so, he kind of made it a choice, but it wasn't, I was going to be taken there regardless. I was not kidnapped like a lot of my peers have been. In the middle of the night, I knew that I was going there. I got on the plane with my dad and went there. And I hear some of these stories about getting taken in the middle of the night, and my heart just absolutely breaks, because it was already traumatic enough, but to be taken in the middle of the night from your own bed is quite unforgivable. So I wanted to put that out there and bring some light to that as well.
Okay, so wait, you were an alcoholic, like, so were you, okay, I'm guessing, like, so were you just like experimenting with alcohol, or were you like an actual like alcohol, like an actual alcoholic? Because I feel like there's like were you experimenting with drugs and just trying to like feel something? Because what I'm trying to get at is, like, do you feel like you were just doing average, like, teenage things, like, delinquent things, or do you feel like you actually deserve to be sent there?
So I don't think anybody deserves to be sent there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a place that any human should be sent. But I want to just speak on the addiction and the alcoholism. I personally believe, and have come to believe in my other recovery programs, that alcoholism and addiction is just something that is there from the minute I was born. So my experimentation stage doesn't really have anything to do with the fact that I'll be in recovery for my whole life. So if that makes sense, if that makes sense to you, it was never, being sent to a boarding school was never a solution to the alcoholism and the addiction to begin with. So, there was definitely some, that wouldn't be the way I would tell any of my sponsees in the future to deal with their children who are, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be a feasible option, because it's not fixing the root problem. The root issue is, what I think for addiction and alcoholism is a spiritual malady, which means that really only can be filled by, whatever spiritual aspect that is for anybody, something greater than yourself. So, Where was I? So yeah, so the amount and the level in which I was dabbling in drugs and alcohol was definitely concerning. But there were others, there were other things that could have been done, and they weren't. And that, I don't want to stay on that for too long. But I just wanted to bring that about, as far as I don't think that would have mattered. That doesn't matter to me.
Okay, I was just curious what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah.
Because there are people that got sent to these programs that were already like actual like full-fledged addiction. Like I went to boarding school with a few people that actually like were already shooting up drugs and like actually in
Right.
like heavy addiction before they got sent there, and like multiple crimes committed. So I was just wondering like what it was for you, and I guess you answered that. So so your dad showed you these places? What do you mean when you say show? Because like, did he show you like the website, the brochure? Like, what did he show you? Like, and what did you see when you saw it on the website or whatever you saw?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's really important to speak on this, because this is part of how these programs exist in this way, is that there was so much mismarketing happening. So for me, and I might have a printout somewhere of what he showed me, because their website was all these amazing reviews of the school. You had student testimonials, and you had just all of the parent testimonials, the student testimonials, and basically a roundabout way of talking about their facilities and their goals and providing structure. And it sounded, they didn't make it sound like it was going to be really fun and easy going, but they definitely there was this air of like, you gotta get through this, you gotta work hard, but there's rewards that are going to pay off, and you can graduate early, and here's the incentives. And I mean, it was nothing like what I thought it was going to be like. I thought more of like, oh, it's a boarding school, like how you see in the movies, and like it's going to be kind of strict, but like you'd still earn freedoms, or like you could have friends. I mean, we'll get into it, but yeah, he showed me those, and so I had this idea of, oh, it's going to be kind of tough, but maybe it'll be better, because I'm not doing well at home. So that was part of my thing, is like I was unhappy. Like I was having mental health problems already. I was fighting with my parents. I was obviously getting arrested for shoplifting, starting to dabble in drugs and alcohol, definitely as a young girl, seeking sex from older men, just very promiscuous kind of things going on from a young age. And so part of me was like, oh, fresh start, like maybe I can get away. So that was part of the appeal. I think I was kind of almost excited for it.
Okay. And were you on any prescription medications before you went to the program?
Yes, I was. I also have a list somewhere, but I'll give you the roundabout. I had been on all different kinds of medication, different antidepressants, SSRIs, different hormones for different birth controls, multiple different kinds. Benzodiazepines, which later in life I had I ended up, that was one of my drugs of choice later in life. And yeah, I think that was about it. There might have been some other medications they tried out once in a while, but it was really quite, and the Adderall, the Ritalin for the ADHD. And yeah, that's what I was on before I went there. And then they tailored it when I got there. And while I was there, they ended up putting me on the highest dosage of Vyvanse that you can prescribe to a person, which was 70 milligrams. And I was very small. It was like a 00 size pant. Like I was a very small girl when I was there. So that was, you can imagine the level of amphetamine that is in somebody's, you know, a little kid's body. So I was, I got a lot of school done while I was there.
Yeah, I'm glad your heart didn't explode or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or just have a heart attack or an arrhythmia. Did they have you on? We might as well just go into that real quick. It sounds like they loaded you up with drugs, because they either load people up with drugs or they'll take them off cold turkey, usually. So they loaded you up with drugs. Did they have you on like benzos at the same time they had you on the uppers?
I don't remember exactly. I couldn't give you a straight answer. There's definitely documentation somewhere of what was going on, but I can tell you that I did not, you know, being in the sober body I am now and being away from there for this many years, I can tell you that I was not even close to sober, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Did you feel like they were trying to like kind of turn you into a zombie or make you complacent or just obedient?
Oh yeah, and I felt that way. I felt that way beforehand, even with just regular public school, as far as the Ritalin. I mean, the Ritalin specifically sent me into a psychotic episode so bad that I ended up going into the psych ward. And this was before the boarding school. So I mean, it just progressed. It's just crazy, the train of events, and you know, I've ceased blaming like directly my family and things like that, and teachers and stuff like that directly involved in my hometown, because it's not worth it. You know, they thought they were doing the best that they could do to help me, but it was really a sad train of events that just led to one of the worst solutions you can really do in that situation.
For sure. Okay, so you're headed there with your dad. And so can you walk us through like what happened when you first got there and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I will share with you as much as I can remember. So I remember the whole plane ride was just really nerve-wracking, and I still have some trouble like being on planes today. Like I don't know. I think it wasn't even it was just knowing that I was going to be left there, and the fear of what could happen, and kind of really like that initial separation from your parent. Like this is like the abandonment, like that, you know, that it runs so deep, and I would never, you know, want to make him feel bad and say that to him and say like, this is the moment that you abandoned me. But like in my heart, like that, it feels and rings true to me. Like that was when I felt abandoned, is when we got on that plane and we went to that school, and we went in the front door, and there's like a long hallway, and there's a receptionist's room right on the right when you walk in. And then apologize if you hear my dog, so ignore him. Hopefully you don't, because my AirPod. So I walked down into this family like parent room, which was never used other than this particular occasion. I don't think I ever went into this room ever again other than this particular moment. Actually, no, I did for a little bit of upper level schooling, but that was about it. It was really, they had specific areas that really the parents were supposed to see only. So this was one of those things. And remember we had to like talk to somebody. It might have been Ben, the owner. And this is kind of like, okay, this is our goodbye kind of deal. And so we said our goodbyes to each other, and they took me down the hallway, and they took me to the OSS rooms, which is the out of school suspension rooms. And they said, take everything you have off and strip down. And we're going to do a lice treatment. And they took all my clothes, everything I had. And this is like, I had no idea what was going to happen. I thought I was just at a regular kind of school. And that was the moment that it was just like, this is not going to be how you thought it was going to be. And I remember the older girl that had, that was doing the lice treatment on me and everything. And she's just like, she was hard. Like, she was a hardened person. And I was like, she could see how naive I was, you know, and I learned that later in the school of just like she just knew, like, you just have to become numb to what you're doing. Like, she's just like, you know, take everything off. Let me do this treatment. And oh, I think something, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Sorry, hang on.
Yeah. I can still hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I apologize. I think the phone, I think the camera switched over.
Okay. If you switch back to the app, then you can probably just like turn the camera back on in Skype.
I know what's happening. It's it's my boyfriend's camera on his phone, because we all have MacBooks. We have Apple products, so it switched over to his phone.
Oh, okay.
Are we able to just pause for a second? I can go tell him to turn it off.
I mean, we can't pause it, but I can just
Edit it out.
Yeah.
That's fine. All right, hang on one sec.
Like to take this time to just continue to thank everybody for all the support. This podcast means the world to me, and like just having everybody's support and hearing from people and saying that the podcast helped them feel not so alone really means the world to me. It helps me keep going. I'm an empath, so I feel things really intensely. So I mean, like these interviews are kind of hard and heavy sometimes, but I feel like they're necessary, and I know that the work I do is important. So thank you guys for all the support. Thank you all my Patreon members. If anybody's interested in joining the Patreon, the link will be in the description. All the proceeds of any donations anybody sends to the podcast or any of that goes towards improving the podcast and making it better. And once I become monetized, I fully intend on giving a percentage of my earnings to places such as Operation Underground Railroad that takes like fights against human trafficking and stuff like that. So to donate to a worthy cause. And maybe even just like something directly T.T.I related. But that's what I intend on doing once this channel becomes monetized. And that should be fucking awesome. So just thank you guys for all the support. And thank you guys for sticking in there with me. We're almost at 100 episodes. And sorry for the technical difficulties we're having here, but we will be back very shortly.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
And see me?
Yeah.
Okay, I do not know why that was happening. I apologize. So if you see that happen again, just let me know. It's just we have shared Apple devices, so that happens sometimes. So just let me know if you see that.
Okay, so yeah, you were going into they told you that they needed to do that treatment.
The lice treatment for the hair. So they do that for everybody that goes there. They need to do a lice treatment. I think some girls must have come in with it, and they just did it to everybody then.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just, that's kind of the moment that I realized that things were not as I thought they were going to be. And I was lucky enough to only go into the OSS room a handful of times. And it was in the beginning, they have everybody go in there in the beginning to make sure that they're not going to be crazy, basically, because once you get stripped of all your things, you do the lice treatment, shower, and then they give you clothes, and then you have to sit in the room, and they kind of like make sure you're not going to go bananas. So, and it was at that, I don't want to skip past it because that's what I tend to do when things are hard to talk about. So I want to slow down and explain exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about these rooms. So these OSS rooms are concrete walls. There is it's smaller than a closet space, really, and there's no toilets. It's just a concrete room, and it's not something that a human being should have to sit in. It is outlawed in federal prisons to put humans in solitary confinement like this. So I wanted to, if you notice, my way of dealing with things is humor, and to skip right over things, and I don't want to do that here. I want to talk about these things because they deserve to be exposed. So that's what I mean when they put somebody in there when they first get there. They put you in a cement box, and they make sure you're not going to be crazy, so that you realize they put you in there so that you realize that if you act up, you can go right back in there. So that's kind of like their initial, like, we're going to show you what's going to happen if you act up. And if you don't understand that by just going through that experience, they actually just verbalize that to you. So that, and then from there on out, my dad was gone at that point, and then I started the shadowing process. So that was my initial, what it was like when I first got there. And yeah.
Okay. Was this program points and levels and merits and demerits, that kind of stuff?
Yes. So there was 6 levels, and there was points and demerits. It was a point system. So this particular, I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head exactly how many points were given, the details of it. But what I do think is important to bring up is that Ben Train, the owner, would use, he would give the points as he felt he should. So no matter whether you did, you could do as much work or as little consequences during the day as you wanted to. But if you were liked by Ben Train, he would just hand points to you. He took particular girls out for service jobs, which now I've later come to realize was very much like sexual grooming that was happening. And he would just award points as he felt he could and should. And that's kind of how he became like almost a godlike figure there, between, I think, both the boys' side and the girls' side alike. Because he could just, that kind of power, he abused it. So yes, there was that point system. But another thing I found out later was that my parents really had paid for me to be there for I think they paid, kind of arranged for me to be there for a year. So looking, finding that paperwork, years later, I'm like, so it didn't really matter what I did. It seemed like I was going to be there for a year regardless. So that was disheartening.
Okay. What about seminars? Did you have what seminars did you have there?
We had accountability. Forgive me if I forget the other names. There was like an intro one, and then there was like accountability. I don't remember their names, but you had to go through them to move up in the levels, and those were horrific. I mean, the attack therapy in those seminars is literally fraudulent. I mean, look at that's closed down. The level of public humiliation and shame that was used to break these children, us down, is I've never seen anything. I've never experienced anything like that in my almost 30 years on this planet. Like, other than something like that. I mean, not even. Sorry. Sometimes I just think about like the things that they had us do in those seminars, and it's just.
Were the seminars called Orientation, Discovery, Focus, Principles, Accountability? Were those any of those sound familiar?
They do sound familiar, but I think that I don't think we had quite as many. Okay. But it's the same kind of deal, because I know that Midwest Academy was bought. It was called like Midwest Twister, and they used the same programs that are all part of the WASP kind of deal. So I mean, similar concepts, really.
Did they have you make an I am statement and a purpose statement?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Remember what yours were?
Yeah. Mine was I am simply infinite, and my purpose is to play the song of my heart while helping others find their happiness.
Okay. And what did you guys have a stretch? Did you guys have to do a stretch?
I don't know what that is. It doesn't sound familiar to me.
So like you would like have to dress up as a butterfly and like dance, or like you'd have to like for me, I got Livin' La Vida Loca, and I had to sing to what was the dude's name? Ricky Martin, Livin' La Vida Loca. And I had to dance to it for my stretch. And then there's a bunch of other stretches. There was
in the seminar.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Oh, I had to write my mom a letter. I remember that now. They made me write my mom a letter.
Was that the obituary letter? Like you die, as if you died? Is that what you're talking about?
No, this is separate from that. I do remember that though. I had to write it to my mom because I don't know, they assigned it and they pitted my parents didn't get along to begin with. And my mom didn't want to send me there. And my mom's also, my dad and mom have issues, and my mom's got some mental health things. And I think they were used against her even within this boarding school. I think that they played into some of her different beliefs, if you will. She's kind of a hippie. So I think they played on that and really kind of attacked her, and then made me write a letter to her in the boarding school saying like, just horrible thing. I mean, I had to create this whole separate persona in order. It's so bizarre. I had to create this part of myself that hated my own mother because that's what I knew they wanted me to say, and they wanted me to hear, like they wanted to hear from me.
Yeah. How long were you there?
Only a year.
Okay. And did you graduate?
I did. I graduated. I actually graduated early, thanks to probably all the Vi bands. I really don't think my high school education was, I really don't remember learning much. Like a lot of what I had to relearn was in college when I got home. I think I took they had me take the SATs there and the ASVAB, and I don't think I did that well. Excuse me. So yeah, I graduated early. So when I came home, all of my friends they still had one more year of high school.
Wait, so you graduated high school, you didn't graduate from the program though?
No, I graduated both.
Oh, okay.
I graduated high school and the program. I couldn't even tell you how. When I was there, I did what I needed to do to get out. Like I was one of the people, and I regret this to this day. I don't know if I would say regret it, but I have feelings about like, what if I had been like one of those people that was brave enough to run, or like, what if I had stood up more? And it's like in my own way, I survived in my own way, where like I just did what I needed to do, and if I needed to write you a consequence, I was going to write you a consequence. And like, I don't know, they break us down, and they put us at competitive levels against each other, and
They make you submit.
It's affected my relation. I mean, it's affected me so deeply with my relationship with other women. I always feel like I need to compete with them. I have felt like that until recently, where I've really started doing some of this work on myself and figuring out where these core beliefs are coming from. And I have a really good friend that we got there on the same day, and her name's Allie, and my name's Alyssa. And so we had this kind of connection, and we weren't allowed to talk to each other the whole time we were there, or not the whole time, but the whole beginning we were there, that you can't speak to other people that are lower levels. And so we had this nonverbal relationship, which for those of you who don't know that are watching this, the nonverbal means like any kind of nonverbal communication, like waving your hands, like mouthing words. Waving is nonverbal. So we had a nonverbal communication with also not being able to be nonverbal. So like I'm talking, we got to know each other through like eyes, like looking at each other's eyes, because you can't even make facial expressions at each other. So it's really wild that we created the connection that we did. But now we're talking about being trauma bonded to people. Like I got the ones that are still alive, we're so trauma bonded.
Yeah, for real. So did you see anybody trying to run when you got there? What did they say would happen to runners?
So they had a 4-wheeler, so they would go and get people on the 4-wheeler. We were right on the border of a couple different states, 2 states or something. And so people made it to the border one time, but they always brought them back, and the whole town knew about us. So, it was a small town too. Like you weren't going to really go anywhere. And if you did, they were going to bring you back to the school. So to me, I was like, it's not even like, for me, in my personal experience, I was like, what makes the most sense is to play on Benjamin Train's likeness for young girls, which he took a liking to me. And I'm going to just milk him for points so I can get the fuck out of here. Like that was my plan. Like, this is my plan of survival. And I was also on, I know it would be different if I wasn't so medicated either. Like, I just know that if I wasn't on so many stimulants, that I may have been able, act out more, but that just wasn't the case, and it happened the way it happened for whatever reason. I don't know.
Did you ever feel like Ben Train, like, did he ever do anything? You said about the grooming stuff. Did he ever do anything like sexual or weird towards you? Grooming?
Yes.
Like that? Okay, what? We'll go into that a little bit.
So he would take specific girls to like do things with him, like take us to restaurants. Like he took me to go get food at Sonic. He took me and another girl, and he would ask us weird questions, like, had we ever thought about being lesbians, and just really straight stuff you don't talk to teenagers about. Then it got the second thing was, he took me on the level 6 trip. He took me privately to a store to try on bikinis for him, and had me like come out of the room, and I ended up getting the bikini, but like we weren't even supposed to wear 2-piece bathing suits. We were only supposed to be able to like allowed to wear 1-pieces. And so it was just, I don't know. And then there's another part of me that's like, it's a very difficult thing to grasp, because part of me knew that if I got him to like me more, that I could get out of there sooner. So it's just it makes me feel sick, like it just. And then the worst thing that I personally experienced from Ben and his and the sexual abuse was he took me and some other girls into his house that was on the property, his home with his children and wife in it, into his basement to use electric razors to shave our pubic hair.
Okay.
So yeah, but he was not down in he didn't go down in the basement, but he like let us go down there. It's just it's very strange. He could maybe have had a camera down there, like I don't know. It doesn't, to me I'm like he's in prison now. That to me is not even the most important thing. It's just the fact that he did that he took, and it was a privilege, right? Like that was his giving us this, he has this privilege for us to go into his house, into his basement and shave ourselves. Like so sick and and twisted.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt he had a camera in there. Did you ever see Ben Train or any of the other staff members giving drugs or anything like that, like to the students, or any students giving drugs to other students? Or hear about it?
I would hear about things, but that didn't seem to be a highlight of my time there. There wasn't. I think people were too afraid to get caught. I think the boys' side did a little bit more, dabbled a little bit more in that. While I was there, at least, than we did over in the girls' side.
Okay. And if you had to estimate when you got there, how many people total in the facility do you think there was, if you had to make an estimate? And when you left, how many people total do you think there was?
Okay, if I had to guess.
Like including boys and girls, if you can make an estimate.
Oh, okay, total.
I know you're gonna obviously have to like guesstimate for the guys, but like.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there was probably at least 20 girls, if not more. And then I would say, I think there was more, I would say like 30 boys, if I remember, there was more boys for sure.
Interesting. I would have thought there would be more girls.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially with Ben Train doing all that grooming, so.
Well, my thought about that too is that in order for the FBI to shut it down, there must have been some case, like something going on before, like while I was even there. Like they may have started looking into the school like before before I even was there. Like I'm not sure, because it takes years to really get the FBI to shut somewhere down. So maybe things were starting to come out. I don't know.
Okay. Let's see. Did you ever get to work kitchen?
Yes, I did get to work kitchen a little bit. That was not fun. Just seeing, especially what the kids in OSS were eating, and they would just kind of get like these sandwiches of like bologna. It was not good food, and sometimes the sandwiches were even like kind of moldy. A lot of the things were canned. The food was not quality. I remember the lunch ladies being somewhat nice, and part of me like weirdly wants to defend some of these people sometimes, and I'm still working through that. I'm working through like, it's okay to share my experience and the truth of what it is, and not because I'm trying to attack somebody else, but like the truth is the food was shit there. Like the food was not nourishing, caused a lot of people to be malnourished. And that's just that, there's no going around that. There's no excusing anybody. Yes, maybe the lunch ladies were nicer, but the food was not good for people. I within the first couple weeks of me being there, I was so dehydrated and so malnourished, and my body was so off that I got a really bad UTI. And they actually didn't believe me for a while. I have like documentation of, they had to, like, they wrote to my parents and they were like, Alyssa says that her bladder hurts, but we just want to try cranberry and she wants to go to the doctor. And like, they tried to like keep me from going to the doctor or getting more help. And they try to do that in the beginning too, because before you're totally brainwashed or broken down, they want to keep you at the school.
Definitely, and they want to keep you at the school too because it's just more money for them. Do you know how much money that your parents spent to send you there, by chance? I mean, obviously, like an estimate.
Yeah, I think like 20 grand was what my dad got a loan. There was like a loan. They sent him information. And again, I mean, it's crazy because I have this box of documents upstairs that I've been saying I'm going to burn for years, but I always keep it around for situations like this, you know? I'm like, I got to go reference this later. And I've stopped beating up on myself because it is what it is. But there was a loan that they sent my dad for, I think it was for 20,000. But I'm sure it was more than that. That's probably just what, you know, he was able to get financed.
Okay. Let's see.
Can I ask you a question? Do you know how much it was for when you went there?
I think it was like 150K. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's hard to know.
It's really fucking expensive. They said that I could have had a full ride at Harvard for the amount I fucking paid to be there 22 months. So
yeah,
take that what you will. I was there 22 months, but did they have any graduation ceremony, like when you graduated from the program?
Yeah, they did. I graduated with 3 other people. So Allie, my friend, being one of them, Harley, and Aaron, and it was the 4 of us. I talk to Allie regularly. I don't really talk to Harley much, and I haven't talked to Aaron in a while. But we all graduated at the same time. I'm surprised, you know, there wasn't a lot of us there, so for them to do a graduation ceremony somehow still was kind of odd, honestly. But I think they would time it that way. When enough people's parents' money ran out, they would just, you know, all of a sudden they're doing so much better and they can all graduate together. So I don't know. So yeah, they had that. They had a couple big trips that you could go on if you were an upper level, which Ben's family also went on. So it was like his family's vacation / an upper level trip. Very strange. Just there was never any, you never let your guard down. Like it was never like we went on this trip in this bus and drove all over the place to see these scenes of beauty in the world. And I was on it. I was in fight or flight. You know what I mean? Like I did not get to experience, which is why I don't actually remember going to these places, because I didn't get to experience it because I was trying to like fight for my life. Because yeah, they act like we're free when we're out in the open, but we're not. We're not.
Yeah. Did you ever hear about anybody like trying to kill themselves or that did kill themselves in the program?
So there was girls that would try to kill themselves in the OSS rooms pretty regularly. I had one girl who ran out of line and grabbed a bottle of Windex and started chugging it, and I had to tackle her, and then she kicked one of the staff members in the legs. She fell over, and you know, she had to go to OSS then. And then kids, you know, things would happen in the OSS rooms. Kids would get a hold of things and try to cut themselves. My most scarring memory personally, and it's difficult for me to talk about, but I want to talk about it. There was a little girl there that had no business being there. None of us had any business being there, but there was a little girl. She had just turned 12, I think she turned 12 while she was there. And she was my hope buddy, which is kind of the person that shows you the ropes of the program. And she didn't understand that she had to follow the rules. You know, she's little, and I guess she'd come from a foster home, and she wouldn't get in line or something, you know, something that a kid is like, what, you know? And the my family rep at the time, James Paulus, he grabbed her and took her to the OSS in isolation. And from there, she stayed in there for, I don't know how many months, but it got to a point where she was taking the like little pieces of rocks that she found on the ground and trying to cut her arm open with them. That's when I tried to bring it to staff's attention that like this shouldn't be happening. Like, she needs help. Like, she needs professional help. You know, we're not doing anything for her here. She's just a little kid. You know, that this time I was like 17, 18. And even then I'm like, she's so small and so little, and she's got no idea. And eventually they took her. I think, you know, the kids get close to being very sick and possibly going to actually like get sick enough to die that they'll take them to the hospital. So that's what happened. I think she just either stopped eating. I think the infection, I think she cut herself so deep that it was going to be infected. And so yeah, that one sits with me for a long time. And I hope at some point maybe I can find her on Facebook or talk to her, and if she's alive, you know, like that's the thing, is that I don't know. So it's part of me doesn't want to look like I'm not, like I say this and I'm also like I want to do this, but like part of me doesn't want to look. Part of me doesn't want to know.
Yeah. Did your credits transfer from school?
Good question. They did, because the school was still open when I went to college. I don't know how, like if I were to go back to school now, I don't know if they would look into the accreditation of Midwest Academy anymore. I think I had some friends that said that their specific colleges didn't accept their credits. So
yeah,
I don't know if it would still happen.
Okay. And what was the hardest part about being there, and how did you handle it?
Oh, that's a good one. You got a lot of good questions, you know.
Thank you.
I would say the hardest part about being there was the loneliness. Not being able to talk to anybody else, like really talk to anyone, being in a room full of people but not being able to speak to them. That was really hard. And the only way that I really dealt with it was to just know that I was not going to be there forever, that I needed to get out, and that there was just to have faith. I think, you know, I'm lucky enough to have faith.
Okay. Is there anything else?
I think I'm just, something I've been struggling with is how to how to see the workers there now. Like somebody that worked at the school came across my Facebook feed, and I saw a picture of them with their daughter, and I just thought to myself, like, how how can you just be like living your life, like living, going on and like just, but when I really broke it down, it's like, what do I want from them really? Like, even if like, I don't want them to be unhappy. I don't wish suffering upon them, but it's something I have to live with for the rest of my life when I see their face. And I'm scared to even tell them how I feel because of the power that they held over me. There was such an imbalance of power. So I want to really, really, really put it out there. These kinds of programs affect people for the rest of their lives. And I have, I'm affected in everything I do with that, whether it be taking a phone call, feeling like I'm being monitored, shower times, my sleeping, bathroom, just very, very, very normal things that might seem normal to people, like standing in lines, places. I have a post-traumatic stress response too. And I have to, I get to work through it, right? And I try to change the verbiage as like, I get to work through this stuff because this PTSD has taken a lot of our friends' lives.
Definitely.
Not everybody. Yeah.
Have you talked to your parents about how this has affected you? And could you ever forgive your parents? I've forgiven my parents, but I'll never forget what they did to me. So, where are you with your parents?
So my dad, I do forgive my parents. I don't think I'll ever, like you said, I'm never going to forget, it's something that happened to me, but I also can see that my dad was very much a victim of this situation. He was sold this fix for your child. He was distraught. He thought I was, with me going into the psych ward and being, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do. Again, like I say now, like because of what happened to me, I can say I would never send my own kid away, but he didn't know, he had no idea of what could have awaited there. And something that really helped heal my relationship with my dad, I don't think I told him this, but when I took the paperwork that I have, that I keep mentioning, there was a list of names of former students that were in there, and he highlighted their phone numbers, which means that he did the research that he thought was going to be helpful. Like, he called these former students and asked them what it was like at Midwest Academy, and he got their opinion. And to me, that was like, he tried, like he really, that he did research, and I didn't think he did. Like, I wanted to make it was easier for me for a long time to make him out to be a monster, to make my parents to be, oh, they did this to me, to alienate them from my life. And it's like, it's not like that. They were trying to help me, and they didn't know they were sending me to one of the worst places that they could. So, and then my mother, on the other hand, she didn't want me to go there to begin with. So that's not, it doesn't really, she didn't have primary custody of me at that time. So she didn't have any say in that decision, really. Now, could she have fought it more? She may very well have been able to fight it more. So do I hold that in the back of my mind sometimes? Yes, I do, and that's the truth.
Okay. Did they set you up with a life contract when you graduated?
Oh yeah. Oh goodness, I couldn't tell you even what was on it. I don't remember.
How long did it last?
Oh my. So I don't know how to answer that question, but I can answer as to what happened after I left the school, which was, I tried to go to college, and I got through like maybe a semester of community college, and then I started realizing like when the brainwashing started going away and I realized that I wasn't going to be sent back there and put into isolation, and I was like able to just be a person, it started setting in, and I was like, goodbye. And I moved out of my house. I moved in with a friend, dropped out of college. And then for the next couple of years, really just, it was a roller coaster, you know, processing something that happened to you that you were completely, like, you were told over and over again that wasn't actually happening, where you weren't allowed to talk about. Like the gaslighting that happened at that school was just indescribable. You know, you question your own reality. And so I could have lived the rest of my life thinking that what happened to me wasn't even real until the school was really shut down. Now, I think deep down, you know, you still hold on to the truth. But if you have enough direct people right in your life that are like, no, I don't think that really happened like that, then you start to question yourself and your reality. So one thing I do want to mention that I got lucky enough to do was I moved back. So I kept trying to get back out to Iowa because I was still thinking that I needed to get back to Ben Train. So, you know, I've now come to realize like that was Stockholm syndrome, where I fell in love with the person that was abusing me. And I moved into his apartments. He had apartments right outside of Keokuk, Iowa. Very strange. I don't know the details of what was happening. There was another girl living there too at the time.
Sounds
so
like
I moved into one. Well, that's been mentioned, so I don't know. I don't know. So what I do know is that I moved into one of those apartments, and he was like going to let me paint one of the apartments, like that. He was going to give me money to do that. And I was not doing that. I was so messed up when I was there. I was on Tinder, and I was trying to, I was just smoking a lot of weed, and I was trying to do other drugs while I was there. I was so like, please help me. Like, I couldn't deal with the fact that like the person that I thought was trying to save me was actually like abusing all these children. And so my way of dealing with it was like, I'm crying for help in front of you, and like, what are you going to do about it? And so he came back to the house, or to the apartment one day, and he saw I hadn't been doing anything. And he started getting on me about stuff. And I was like, I had this moment where I was like, oh, I can confront him about what he did. Like, I'm not in the school anymore. I can actually ask him to his face why he was doing what he was doing. And so I said, Ben, why did you keep, like, little Hannah? I used Hannah as the example. I said, why did you keep that little girl in a box of isolation? Like, why did you think that was going to help? And he's like, you're stoned, aren't you? You're high. And I was like, yes, I am. And so what? You still abuse little children. And then he wrote me off. Like, he was like, he didn't acknowledge what I was saying, just because, you know, that's what they would do. They would use that. Oh, you're such a bad kid. You were doing some drugs, or you were doing this, or you were doing that. Oh my goodness. And so he wouldn't look at me. Like, he wouldn't look and face the question I was asking him. And he tried to write it off as me being stoned when I was seeing more clearly. And I tried to run away. I tried to run away from the reality with drugs. I tried to run away from the reality with alcohol. And I still was face to face with him and facing the truth of what he did. And he couldn't look at me. So that I'm really grateful for, because then I left. I had another friend come pick me up that lived in Fort Dodge, and she let me stay with her and her family. Lots of amends I need to make, truthfully, in my life over the years of, you know, trying to figure out who I am and why I'm hurting so bad, and just hurting other people in that process. But she came and took me out of that place, and I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for that.
What do you think what have you struggled with the most since the program?
Trust. I mean, that's, to me, it's just quite simply trust, and also I'd say like making, connecting with people. Like, I just feel like, not that I want to be like a martyr and like, oh, I'm doing all this and I have it so much harder, but like there are certain things where I'm like, there's a post that came across Facebook the other day and it was like, oh, you got grounded when you were a kid and I got sent to Idaho. We're not the same. And I'm like, like, I just related to that so much, because I feel like, yeah, like it's been hard to relate to other people sometimes. And I guess I got resentments too, because I expected people to know what I went through without explaining it to them. Have you ever had that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's hard because I can't, it's not their fucking fault.
For sure. If you could go back in a time machine, or let me try again. If you could go back in time in a time machine and not go through these boarding schools, would you do it, and why?
I'm glad you're asking that question, because I have had to think about this. Like, what would I really say that I don't, I wish it didn't happen? And I have to say I don't wish it didn't happen. And because it made me who I am. I'm learning to love myself, and that means all parts of me, everything I've been through. It made me stronger. Absolutely. I think, certain hardships. But I think the way to learn strength can come from a place of fighting for love and fighting for justice and fighting for fairness, and not from fear and isolation and hate. And that's what I want to teach my children one day is, you can be strong by fighting for something that is worth fighting for.
For sure. If you see your belief, knowing what you know now, that these places could or should or even could be regulated at this point, or is it your belief that they should all just be shut down, the remaining boarding schools?
I don't want to give a solid answer, because I think there are a lot of variables involved. I think that boarding schools could be, I think there could be regulations that could be put in place. I think that, we have structures that have oversight, and that keeps power in check, right? Like there can be legislation that's made that allows these places to be looked at. And I think there is and was already regulations created, but these schools somehow found loopholes. And quite frankly, people and places will always find loopholes. Like, just because these schools are shut down, abuse is still going to be it's still going to happen. And that's just the sad nature of life, of the world that we live in. But can we do more to make sure there is less of it? Yes. And I think it starts by getting rid of anything that's affiliated with like the Worldwide Association of Specialty Schools and Programs, like those ones that we know. And we have student testimonials saying that they should, that they were abused there. You got to look at the employees. Are the employees directly, or mostly the employees, people that graduated the schools? Are they being, is it a cult mentality where they're brainwashing children and then having the people work there because they don't have anything else to do, because now they're so brainwashed they don't know how to survive in any other way? I mean, that's part of the reason I moved back out. I had no idea how to live in the world.
Exactly. Did you ever have a hard time relating to people too?
Oh yeah. That's what I was saying about like not wanting to be like, I used to be, and nobody did anything specifically wrong to me. I was just mad. I was mad because these places exist and you didn't do anything about it, but you don't even know about it. So that's why I come on here and I talk about it. and spread awareness in this way. So, but yes, I do. And that's a fiery one for me. I can feel it.
For sure. Well, is there anything else you want people to know about your experience, or anything you might tell a parent thinking about sending their kid to a place like this?
Sure. I would say, parents, just do your best to do the research that you can. I would say physically go and make sure you're inspecting the facility yourself. I think that if there's any kind of secrecy that happens or anything that they're not telling you, that's a red flag right away. Anything that's monitored, so like mail that's monitored, any kind of monitoring that happens between the school and the family, like the child, if the school's intervening between the child and the family, that should be a red flag. You should always be able to have direct communication with your child, no matter what, whether, you think they're telling the truth or not. You don't want to have, the school to be in control of the communication in that way. They could be, keeping your child from telling you the truth of what's going on. I check into accreditation. Are these schools actually able to give your children credits for education, and so that they'll be able to function in the world after? What kind of rules? What are the ways that they can move up in these programs? Is it a points system? Is it, are they fairly being dispersed? What's the motivating factor behind a child's success, right? Like what are you using to motivate them? And if you just look at that, usually that can tell you right away if you should send your kid there or not. If you're motivating them from fear, we know that doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. So don't send your kid to a place that's motivated by fear. It causes more fear and hatred and anger.
Definitely. And my final question, who do you know that I should interview, or that you think that would want to do an interview?
So I have a group of MWA people that I could send your contact to, and I can have them reach out to you. I'm not sure who would be willing to do it. Some people don't want to talk about it at all. They either haven't, they aren't ready to, or they just simply want to move past it, and they're done with that chapter of their lives. But there might be some people that would like to do this, so I can send your contact to them.
Yep. All right. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your experience. And if you ever want to do a part 2, just let me know and we'll make it happen.
Well, thank you so much for doing this and having me on here. I really feel very honored to have been asked to do this. I know that I get to speak for a lot of people when I do this, because it's not just my experience, because I went through the same things next to people, so I know that they feel the same way. So thank you for asking me to do this.
Yep, no problem. And for everybody that has watched this far in the video, please like the video, share, and subscribe, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye.
Thoughts living rent-free in my mind. Wish I could just numb this pain tonight. Sometimes I just don't wanna fight anymore. I fall to the floor, relapse is in store. I wish I had learned before, now I don't know what's in store. I'm gonna end up poor, standing outside of a store begging for some more money, cause I would be getting hungry. But I wouldn't eat, cause drugs would beat food. There would be never be an interlude, cause when I do drugs I am so crude and lewd. Oftentimes I'm also in a horrible mood. So don't do it, dude, don't relapse. It's just a trap, it won't make you happy, don't doubt me. I know, cause I've lived it. Being sober is terrific, but sometimes I do miss it.